I can't even believe this. I can't believe this. I can't. Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Big Ball Vlogs. I do reviews, news, everyday vlogging, and every once in a while I'll do a tutorial. And I'm at the table today, but it's not for a review. But if this video is educational or somewhat entertaining, please consider smashing that like button and maybe subscribing to the channel for more videos when I post them. I keep stumbling over that, and I'm also a pen clicker, so if that annoys you, sorry. But anyway, today I'm sitting at the table because I wanted to talk about what everybody else is talking about, and that is the new firmware and fly application for the DJI Mavic Air 2. Everybody's trending this video because DJI has dropped an amazing, like a bomb drop of a firmware update for like their first major firmware update, and it's absolutely like a shocker to me. I've had many different drones, and I think this is probably the biggest expansion for a DJI drone that I've ever seen on the first major update. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds of what this thing's gonna do. I know I try to go out and shoot the B-roll for it. Shout outs to you hot weather, hot state flyers who went out the day that you got this drone and started shooting video. Not for me. My camera overheated, which meant I overheated, and I came inside. And a lot of those videos, and I don't want to take anything from some of those guys, they don't get deep enough into it. They give you the overview, and I find things. I click on stuff, and I find things, and I come back and tell you the insider tips. Like, for instance, did you know, and I'll show you because I got the screen recording right now. Did you know, let me do something real quick. Let's end this. Did you know that if you hold on the screen, you could actually scroll left to right with your drone's camera up and down by holding on the screen? Did you know that? A lot of people don't know that because they don't click on things. They don't hold things. I do, and I tell you about it. So now that's tip number one I just gave you. If you didn't know that, you can do it. But I'm going to show you another one at the end that maybe might even, again, convince you that this is probably going to be a drone that's hard to beat for 2020 and 2021. And I say that because, like, in 2020, what do you got? You got the Anafi. It's not comparable to the Mavic Air 2. It's sub 500, maybe sub, I think it's like $600, but you're not getting what you get from the Mavic Air 2. And then anything above that, you're talking 12 to $1,500, and that's just a lot of money for a drone that you can, you know, if you can spend this for this and get the same thing, why would you do it, right? But I'll let you make that decision. I just want to talk about what this drone can do. So again, not getting into all the details, I will give you a tip that I found out that might make this a little bit better than you think. But let's just talk about the updates first. Now, if you haven't been able to update, try uninstalling the app and reinstalling the app. That happened to me. Like I said, I took a couple of days to get on this, and then when I did, I couldn't get the updates to take. Actually, wouldn't update the app. It wouldn't update the firmware. Ended up deleting the app, reinstalling the app, going through all the checklist BS that you have to go through when you install the DJI app. Every time you install the DJI app, even after you signed in, and then I finally got the update to the Fly app, and the Fly app is becoming one of the best drone apps that I've ever used. I mean, it's kind of light with a lot of features and a lot of functionality. Originally, I thought it was going to just be like, you know, the original DJI, like Mimo app and stuff like that, where you just get like the light features, you know, but you're actually getting a lot of stuff that you control with this, and I like it. But if you've done the update, you will see that in the top right quadrant of your screen, you have this little icon now that's there, and it's a little color icon on my screen right now, which should be showing you. It is a number 51, what should be a circle, but the battery is like half dead, and that is the return to home notification update. Now, in the past, it was like blank blockish letters or numbers up there. I don't even remember how to tell whether or not the thing was going to come back. It came back on me. I'm like, hey, I didn't realize it was coming back. But with this, you get a nice user interface that tells you when it's going to come back. By tapping on that, it will tell you, this is the return to home point at this amount of time. This is the amount of time it's going to take before it forcefully lands. If you're over a lake, sorry about your luck. And this is the amount of time that it's going to take for this thing to just drop out of the sky. And you want to be aware of that if you're a new pilot, because, I mean, these drones are advertised on how long they could fly. 30 minutes of flight time. But that 30 minutes is probably going to be like till it falls out of the sky. So in the past, I guess I had the ability to kind of go in and set up an alert that says, hey, warn me when I'm at 20% battery and bring it home at 15% battery, just in case I'm not paying attention. Without you being able to do that now, you have to be aware of, you know, what's going on, because if you take a fly over a lake and you got a tailwind and it pushes you further out in that lake than you thought, and then you try to come back into that now it's a headwind, it's probably going to take you a lot longer to do it, and you're going to need like 15-20% battery if you're further out, right? We shouldn't be that far out per FAA, but hey, it happens, right? So be aware of that if you're a new pilot. Bring it back with like 20% battery. Another thing is, I've been flying remote control for like quite a while. Lithium polymer, you know, doesn't take well to being under cycled. So if you get it below, I don't know what it is on these DJI batteries. Usually there's some kind of little like circuitry in there that will prevent it from being undercycled. But I have heard people say that their batteries are puffing, and it's probably because they're out flying them down to, like people doing long range tests, flying them down to like 0% or 5% battery. Yeah, it's way too low. You're never going to put the same charge back on it, and you're also probably going to take the risk of it actually puffing up on you. So with that out of the way, let's talk about this firmware update. I mean, this is version 01000340, and this has got to be, like I said, the absolutely most amazing firmware update that I've ever seen on any DJI drone for the first major update. I mean, when I bought the DJI Mavic Air 2, I kind of said, hey man, I just bought this thing. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but I want to tell you about this new drone that I got. You know, I didn't know if I want to stay in drones, but hey, it was a very functional drone with a lot of cool features for a sub $1,000 price tag. And that's sub $1,000 for the fly mower, not sub $1,000 for a base. Base is like 788, fly mower is like 988, and if you add in extra batteries, you're going to be up in like $1,100 if you did it separately. So always a good idea to buy the fly more, because you're going to get more bang for your buck. But with that said, I feel like I hit the lottery now, because you know I bought this thing based on nostalgia. I liked it. It looked just like, or close to, the original Mavic Pro. It had a lot of cool features. It had very functional, very capable features. And now I have additional features which you're not going to get on anything in the lower end or anything. I mean, you got to go higher up to get these features. So let's talk about them. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I want to tell you about them and kind of tell you why I think that this is going to be hard to beat in 2020 and 2021. So let's start with that. In 2020, what do you got? You got the Onaphy, right? The Onaphy is good. I'm not going to take anything away from the Onaphy. A great drone if you're looking to spend like from $0 to $500, $600, depending on where you buy it. If it's new from Best Buy, probably like close to 6 or 7 with batteries. You can find one online closer to 5. That's what I sold mine for. Now, if you want something that's got like zoom features and some of the obstacle avoidance, you're looking at the Mavic Air 2, maybe the original Mavic Air, dated, and then you got the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 and the Mavic 2 Pro. Expensive drones. I spent close to $2,000 for my Mavic 2 Pro. Hardly used all the features on it. Ended up selling it and getting close to what I paid for it. The Mavic 2 Zoom got a lot of cool features, but now you're getting some of those features that are kind of like actually able to be done with the Mavic Air 2 for sub $1,000. Remember, sub $1,000. So with that said, let's talk about those features. So before we talk about the features, safety is always first. So let's talk about the safety feature that they've added. They've added this thing called flight assistance. I'm going to go quickly into the safety, or into the settings, and go into the safety mode. So I'm already there. So they got this thing called flight assistance. And while they say they've added this feature, it seems like what they've done is they've taken two different features, which was obstacle avoidance and APAS, and kind of like melted them together, merged them together to make this new feature called flight assistance. Now with flight assistance, you have the ability to kind of change the settings over your 3 different flight modes. So you got tripod mode, you got normal mode, you got sport mode. So right now I am in normal mode, but I'm going to click over to tripod mode. And in tripod mode, as you can see, you only have the ability to brake when you come up to an obstacle, or turn off obstacle avoidance. So when you hit off, it's going to turn it off across all 3 flight modes, but you have the ability to brake. It will not go around. When you put it in normal mode gives you the ability to turn on bypass, which means when it sees an obstacle, it will try to fly around it for you. And then if you put it in sport mode, I like to call sport mode the obstacle avoidance turn off switch, because when I'm flying around and I don't want to use obstacle avoidance, what I normally do is just put it in sport mode and then fly it a little bit gentler, right? So sport mode is, you know, no obstacle avoidance. And as you can see on the icon here, or the image here, yes, you will crash in sport mode into obstacles. It'll beep like it's going to stop, so be aware which mode you're in, because it'll beep telling you that there's an obstacle there, but it will crash into that obstacle. So be very aware of that. So one of the things that I don't like, actually the only thing I don't like about this, because I play with APAS, you know, it's cool little cool little feature. If you want to try to, you know, push your drone, see whether or not, you know, DJI is going to honor that refresh part thing that you bought, because, you know, you bought it and you get 2 replacements and you don't want it to go to waste. So hey, you're going to push the features, right? So yeah, push forward on the stick and just let it go and see if it flies around trees or fly through the woods without hitting anything. So in the past, you were able to kind of like control the drone in all 4 directions. When you did that, APAS would be on. If you undershot, or maybe, you know, weren't paying attention, APAS will go around, but you also have the ability to use the left or right stick. So there must have been some crashes because of that, and DJI must have had to do a lot of returns on that refresh care program, because they've taken away the ability to steer the drone left and right when you're using this feature. And I don't know why they did that, because it actually tricked the heck out of me. It scared me, actually, and I'm an experienced pilot. I took it up in the air. I'm going to go back to the main screen on the left side of the screen above your takeoff and landing button, there's where that little button is for this flight assistance. And I accidentally tapped it and turned it on. I took the drone straight up in the air. I went to fly it away, and I'm moving left to right, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, why is my drone stuck? I don't know why my drone's stuck. And then I look down at the controls, and I'm like, oh, this freaking feature's on. And there's no way to kind of get rid of it off of the main screen. And it's very easy to tap if you are playing around with the landing and takeoff button. So you got to tap it. And when you tap it, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm sport mode again. So when you tap it, and it's off, or actually when it's off, it's just white. But when you tap it to turn it on, you'll get the center icon to light up, and then you'll get the little splash screen saying it's on, and then you'll see that the front and rear arrows are lit, but there are no left and right arrows. So that means you cannot control this drone left or right. Don't like it. Wish that I could remove it from the main screen so I don't accidentally turn it on. But maybe if you're a new pilot, it might work for you. So not going to knock it for now. It might work for some people. It just doesn't work for me. So let's talk about the next feature. And there's actually two parts to this. So I'm trying to follow the firmware updates. I mean, the points on this are not actually in order the way I want to talk about them. But let's talk about the zoom feature. Now, this is one of the reasons why I say that this drone is going to be hard to beat in 2020 and 2021 because, you know, the Mavic 3 is on the horizon. I think, in my opinion, it's already a better deal than the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro, unless you're using the Mavic 2 Pro for a very specific use, like you're a real estate or something like that, and you want a professional or consumer, or what do they call it, prosumer level drone. But when you're thinking about the, you know, sub $1,000 drone compared to something like the Mavic 2 Zoom, you're talking about a bigger drone, you know, similar flight times, but it costs more. And you get the additional obstacle avoidance sensor on top, but who really, I mean, I don't know. Do you need one to tell you you're going up and going to hit something over top? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just not for me. For me, I'm always going to go with something that got a lot of features that cost less and there's not much compromise. So when you're comparing something like this, sub 1,000 with all the features that you get, because I don't think the Mavic 2 Zoom does 4K 60. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the Mavic 2 Zoom does 4K 60. It does some amazing photo stuff, but I don't think it does 4K 60. You're getting a drone that does 4K 60, which now has the ability to zoom, and it costs less than $1,000. Now, you can zoom in up to 2 times, 2x zoom, not as crazy zoom like the Mavic 2 Zoom, but 2x is a pretty good zoom. I mean, it gets you in close enough that you can stay far enough away from obstacles and far enough away from subjects that you don't have to get into that danger zone, right? You can shoot in 4K, you can shoot in 2K, you can shoot in 1080 across all of the different frame rates. So there's no turning it off or having to turn it on and turn it off or sacrifice resolution because you want to use this feature. Again, DJ added a great thing by allowing you to use it across all different frame rates and all different resolutions. Unlike, you know, like something like a GoPro that says, hey, you can't use image stabilization in 4K 60, you know? So I like that. Now, on top of that, on top of being able to zoom, this is a little secret that I'm going to tell you about that I don't think I saw on any of the other videos I've watched so far, and I probably only watched 2, so maybe I'll speaking out of turn here. Let's say you're thinking about buying a Mavic 2 Zoom because you want to do dolly zoom, right? What if the Mavic Air 2, with a little bit of practice, you were able to do dolly zoom with? Would that change your mind about buying the $1,200+ drone versus the sub $1,000 drone? So here's a little tip that I can tell you, because again, like I said, I click on buttons. If you hold down on the 1X, 2X button, so if you tap it, let's just talk about how you work it first. If you actually tap that button, it's going to go from 1X to 2X. But if you hold that button, it's going to give you a scroll. And as you see, now you can scroll in and out. And depending on how fast you do it, it's a little steppy, but depending on how fast you do it, if you give it a little bit of forward or a little bit of reverse, you might be able to pull off a dolly zoom. I mean, sub $1,000 drone here with zoom and dolly zoom, man, that's gonna be hard to beat. I mean, to make it better, maybe they just put dolly zoom in it, since you can kind of do that. Maybe the next firmware update they actually add the dolly zoom feature. Sub $1,000 zone. Remember, it's almost like hitting the lottery. You actually bought in early on Amazon with this one, right? Now you got a drone that does all these things with less cost, and it's absolutely amazing. So I'm loving the actual ability to zoom on this thing. I don't use zoom often, but when I do, and I can't, or when I need to and I can't, it's absolutely frustrating, because there's some times where you're just like, I don't want to get too close to that thing because there's power lines there, but I can't really see it in the frame, and you know, I got to get in closer. Zoom, a 2x punch is absolutely amazing. Now it only crops in, I think it crops in about maybe 10-15%, but again, it actually works and I like it. So let's go into number 2 reason why this may be the drone that's hard to beat, and then we'll get into some of the other things that are just icing on the cake. when I read through this, I read that the waypoints was optimized, and I'm like, okay, waypoints optimized, and how? And it says it increased the number of waypoints to 45, and it added support for a task library. So if you don't know what a task library is, and I'll have to test this because, again, shout out to you guys who do hot weather droning. I couldn't stay outside long enough to figure it out. Last time I heard task library, it was when you were able to save waypoints on the Mavic 2 Pro, which gave you that feature where you can kind of like plot out a flight plan, go out and fly it in the morning, go out and fly it in the afternoon, then go out and fly it at night, and then kind of stitch them all together and get this, this hyperlapse flight plan that had a day to night transition. So if you can do that with a sub $1,000 drone, man, this thing is just getting better and better and better. I mean, I'm absolutely amazed by what this thing can do. So those are two top features right there that you might want to think about buying the Mavic 2 Zoom instead of waiting for the Mavic 3 and spending probably $2,000, or going out and buying like an island fee, or trying to wait for a Skydio R2. Like I said, I tried twice and they let me down both times. So, but some of the other features that it has. So now you have the ability, it optimized the FPV mode, right? So FPV mode is when the drone banks, the gimbal banks, and gives you like the perspective of an FPV drone. On previous drones, they had this thing called airplane mode, which over-exaggerated that made it look like you were doing a hard bank turn in an airplane just by tilting the gimbal along with the rotation of your drone. I never really used FPV mode. I tried it when I had the DJI goggles, didn't really like it. Haven't played with it since, but now that I'm actually flying FPV drones in the background, I'll be getting back to you on that. I might try it a little bit. I might try with it, play with it, and see if I can get some of those cool shots that they get with FPV drones with something that's a little bit more secure that has obstacle avoidance. Because I've crashed my FPV drone into a lake, I've crashed into trees, I've crashed it several times. Fortunately, it is a very inexpensive repair. The next thing that it says that it does is it actually optimizes the fact that if you're flying in sport mode, it will keep the props out of your shot. So in sport mode, your drone tends to pitch forward very far, which means the props are kind of like down here and your camera's at this angle. And then especially if you have turned on the feature where the gimbal can actually pitch up a little bit, so now your props have come down here and then they're in the shot. And there's nothing like going out and getting this cool shot where you got this nice smooth flyby and you can see these propellers spinning around in the corner. Most of the time you got to kind of like crop in on that, which means you got to crop in the whole video. So now that it actually has this feature, what I'm believing it does is, as the gimbal pitches forward, the camera will pitch forward with it so that it doesn't put the props in the shot, and I like that too. Again, a lot of cool features that are coming with this. While it's not really listed here, oh, I forgot one. 4K hyperlapse. Got to try that because I love hyperlapse. So 4K video hyperlapse, it's going to be so clean, so sharp. I mean, the hyperlapse already look great, but 4K resolution hyperlapse, I did that with the Mavic 2 Pro, and it looked crazy sharp and crazy nice. You could see like the power lines and everything. It was just crazy. But another thing that I don't see it here, maybe it was in a previous firmware update, but they've also given you the ability, and I'll go into settings real quick. If you go into your controls, you now have the ability to kind of go in, and if you go into advanced gimbal settings, you now have the ability to set up your gimbal so that it moves and kind of compensate for some of the movement of your drone. Now, here's something that I noticed on this first time. I'm 18 minutes. I'm going to try to get this done. I've noticed that for some reason that they've given you this feature, this drone spins like a top now. And like I took it up into the yaw and it snapped around like that. And I'm like, whoa. So again, they've done something where they've made a fix, which kind of like messed up how I like to fly it. So now I got to go in and actually set those settings so that it doesn't snap around super fast. Because you have yaw rotation speed, as you can see right here, it's at 75 degrees per second. Now I'm going to turn it all the way back down because this firmware update has now made this drone a little bit more twitchy than I like it to be to keep it like smooth and cinematic. Hey man, I'm up to 20 minutes and I know I've been taking a lot of time here kind of like ranting on about things that you probably don't care about, but I wanted to tell you talk about this thing, and I'm definitely going to get back to you with some videos using each one of these features soon. So I'll talk to you later. Peace.